Why are they so important that we have to know our strengths? How does science relate to that?
Yeah. There's many reasons. I mean, so one, I can summarize it. I'll give more detail in this, but I could
Yeah.
summarize it in two words: is that they're really important for well-being and adversity. So, like, if we look at all the researchers, there's now I'm counting somewhere around 800 studies in the last 10 years on this grouping of these 24 character strengths. And you could summarize it as so much of it is about well-being, so helping children, adults, and so on to build well-being. So well-being is health, physical health, it's psychological health, it's better relationships, it's achieving more in your life, it's engaged, it's finding meaning and purpose in your life. It's all of these things as well-being. And then that other word of adversity. Character strengths help us to dig deep, to overcome problems, to overcome conflicts, to overcome challenges, to manage. Maybe we have a particular psychological problem, or maybe we have a medical problem or a disability of some kind, and we use character strengths to overcome that disability, or to manage it better, to be able to feel like we have more skills. So it comes down to those two words, and then we could go into all sorts of research in terms of what's happened in the science of character strengths for children and schools and among adolescents, and that boils down to all sorts of points, like kids that are working with their character strengths achieve more, they have better scores in their achievement levels. There's a more positive classrooms that happen, like more positive climates that happen around character strengths classrooms. Kids are happier in school and so on. But another angle I want to take to answer this question briefly is on the why of character strengths, is because it helps us to work with that automatic negative mindset that we have in life. That we're so good as human beings to look for flaws and to look for problems and to see ourselves critically and to see ourselves in a negative way. And a lot of that has helped us to improve. We don't want to necessarily get rid of that kind of natural negative mindset. It helps us to push ourselves. But at the same time, it does a disservice to what's best in us. We then have a tendency to not pay attention to the strength and to the good. So when we start to have these character strengths conversations, and we have people asking us about our strengths, and we're using them, we're deliberately trying to work with them, then that helps to counterbalance the negative mindset a little bit. And we create a little bit more of a positive mindset. Again, not to get rid of the negative, but to balance things out. We want to have both. There's so many different things that can influence our personality and influence our character. From the home upbringing to what we call deliberate intervention. So deliberately focusing on trying to improve oneself can have an impact on our personality. We now know we can change our personalities. It used to be thought 10 years ago, people thought, no, personality is rigid in stone, it's unchangeable. But now we know we can make changes, but most people don't. So most people do stay, basically who they are is who they are. And traumatic events, can affect personality and character. Who knows, all the effects of COVID that have happened across the world. For some people, major traumas have happened. For other people, small mini traumas. Who knows? We'll see what effect that has had on children and on their character strengths. For some kids, it's going to help them to develop their strengths, and they're going to face those challenges with strengths. And for others, it might kind of squash them a little bit. But we do know from some of the early COVID research that character strengths are helpful during COVID. But in some of the research on children has found that, some of the character strengths that are more prevalent or obvious in the early ages are strengths like love and kindness and gratitude and teamwork. And then other strengths might come a little bit later, like appreciation of beauty and excellence, maybe perspective, which is that kind of wider wisdom, that usually comes with life experience. But again, it goes back to all 24 are in every kid. So any kid, you might, and we all probably know some kids who are like a wise little prodigy, or they're really deeply in beauty. They love appreciating beauty and nature and little insects and so on. So it's just on average, the love and the kindness and gratitude might be a little bit more common in that sense. So.
Yeah. I live very consciously. Everything I say to an individual, I live very mindfully in every situation in life. And I want to know if someone was to implement be more conscious of what they say, to themselves, to people around them, if that helps improve an individual state of mind rather than focusing on the external things in life? Can that bring you more joy, focusing on character strengths?
Yes, the answer seems to be a pretty strong yes from the research. There's a couple of different ways to answer it. So one is the level of character strengths that have been connected to happiness more than others. So there's some strengths that have been shown in study after study to be most strongly connected with happiness. Now, this is research in adults, so very relevant to all the parents. And those strengths are zest, hope, gratitude, love, and curiosity. That those seem to be across various cultures and ages and people at different stages of life and so on. Those strengths seem to be most connected to happiness. And if you work on them, they can cause greater happiness. So that's been a finding. Another finding is that if people work on their signature strengths, so signature strengths are whatever your highest strengths are. So we would encourage everybody to get to know your highest strengths and begin to work with whatever those highest ones are out of the 24. And if you work on those and try to develop those even more, that's also connected to greater happiness in study after study. And in children who work on their signature strengths, there's a benefit also to their sense of hope in life, which is, I think, probably what everybody on your team would want, and maybe all of us want, especially now during COVID. We all can use a little bit more hope. But a final point I want to make, because I also, like you, love the area of mindfulness and bringing greater awareness and attention to ourselves, to what's going on in our thinking, our feelings, our body, our environment, and bringing more mindfulness to character strengths means that we're not being mindless to our best qualities. It means that we're not going through life, kind of like blind to our best qualities. We're being aware of them. We're tuned into them. And then we can deliberately use them. We could say, oh, this situation is going to call for my bravery. So I'm going to try to mindfully use my bravery. Or this situation with my child, and I'm parenting my child right now, I want to kind of yell at them, or I want to do something. I'm mindful of that anger coming up. I'm going to just take a deep breath and use my self-regulation strength, or I'm going to use my prudence strength and be careful about the words I'm going to choose, or I'm going to use my love strength and give them a hug instead. Yeah. Each person can choose different strengths, but that mindfulness with character strengths is a wonderful combination. So I'm right with you.
And Ryan, I just love what you said, because obviously we just met over the phone, over Zoom, but that's how I've lived my life, just mindful of whatever I say, because we are who we are because of our environment, of our society, our experiences, our emotions, our perspective of life, and so we say certain things because of the way we've been brought up, the way we, just like I said, environment. So I'm always mindful of these things. You just made me happy by giving me that point.
That's right. Yeah. Well, you make me happy hearing you talk about that, because, right here in front of me are two wonderful young men, two coaches who are doing something else that's so important in character, which is being good role models. And that's what could be more important than that for any child, any adult, anybody, to have good role models to look to. And what are good role models? But people that try to live their life a little bit more mindfully, but also that come at life with character strengths and try to do the best they can with their character strengths. I mean, that's what I want. I have 3 kids. I mean, that's what I want my kids to be observing among their teachers and their coaches. My kids play soccer. They do different sports too. And I want them to have lots of good role models in their life for character strength. So I'm, love what you said there too. And I'm grateful to be talking to you.
Thanks for that. Why do we fail to recognize our own character strength, but we recognize other people's character strength as human beings?
Yeah, I see that a lot. Yeah.
We, because I think a lot of it goes back to that way that we're wired, that more deficit-based mindset it's a hard wiring that we've had. And so we default back to that way of where we are quick to criticize, quick to go to weaknesses. And we do that in ourselves. We do it in other people. But then when people get that opportunity to see a strength and it's brought to them, then it could shift that mindset. And people generally find it a little bit easier to spot strengths in others than in themselves, and it's good to do both at the same time, but generally speaking.
How does the character strength survey, how will it help our players?
So we have a brand new VIA youth survey that's for ages now 8. It's the lowest age we've ever gone, 8 to 17. And so anybody can take the VIA Youth Survey for free. For parents and adults, they can take the regular VIA Survey, just called VIA Survey, ages 18 and up. Anybody that takes any of these tests gets their immediate results. So you take this test, and then you get this rank order of strengths from 1 to 24. And then it begins to them on their journey of being able to see themselves in a different way. And there's lots of ways that you could certainly bring it into the One Ball Club in terms of inviting everybody that joins to take the VIA Youth Survey, inviting parents to take the adult survey, maybe having group discussions for the parents to talk about their strengths.
Really, really appreciate your time today. It's been awesome.
Yeah, well, I meant everything I said in there about you guys. So it's great to know you and great to see the great work you're doing. So I hope that you'll keep me posted. Feel free to share with me stuff that you do. And, because again, there's not a lot of people that are doing it systematically in sport. So you all are on the cutting edge in that sense. But there's tons of people doing it in the workplace and in schools and in coaching and so on. But for sport, not as much. So it's very exciting what you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Likewise.